Hey there Dark and Darker fans, and welcome back to the channel. Today is September 28th and we just got hit with the patch notes for Hotfix number 14. Let's jump straight in there and see what's going on. Fixed a rollback issue where players would revert to a previous state when exiting a dungeon. I think this is the main reason this patch is here now, especially so quick on the heels after early access patch number 1. There was still this issue ongoing where people would just lose all progress they made on a character, all the loot that they got. That is super frustrating, so this is not a surprise that they wanted an immediate fix out for this. And clearly, it looks like they had some other things they wanted to fix, and they've tagged it on as well. Fixed Occultist Boots movement speed. Occultist Boots added something ridiculous like 14 movement speed, and I think it wasn't just a tooltip bug, I think it actually gave Warlocks that much movement speed. So now it's back to normal, that's good. Fix an issue where Curse of Pain's instant damage would not occur when the Warlock uses Curse Mastery. Fix an issue where Power of Sacrifice could not deal damage when the Warlock uses Curse Mastery. Most caster-oriented Warlocks use Curse Mastery, and maybe even the melee ones, so that's an integral part of the Warlock kit. It's nice that it's working properly again. Lantern and Torch, additional movement speed has been adjusted to 0. This makes me a sad boy. I was enjoying that offhand adding movement speed, but I also understand that Iron Mace has been trying to slow the game down, so this isn't entirely surprising to me that it's been adjusted to 0. Lanterns can now appear with random modifiers at the higher rarities. Well, that almost seems too good. My goodness. For example, dual wield fighter, in the offhand you usually wield like the Castellan dagger because it is just a stat stick with a low movement speed penalty. Well, now you can have a stat stick with a 0 movement speed penalty, although I doubt that it counts as a weapon in your offhand, so I don't know if this is going to help out, dual wield fighters, unfortunately. I feel like it should, but it likely is not going to. Cool change though. Damage for all daggers has been slightly increased. There was a lot of talk about Iron Mace over nerfing daggers in Hotfix number 13. So I don't think anyone's really surprised to see the damage come back up a bit. Because it's a slight increase, it's probably only 1 or 2, and I'm not even sure that's enough. We'll have to find out as time goes on. Rogue's trap detection range has been increased from 400 to 450. Jokester 350 to 450. It looks like they're just giving a lot of abilities that have a range on them, a passive range, and making them all the same. I think that's a very good idea. I don't think there's a reason these passive abilities should have different ranges. And it's sort of weird that you would get used to them on one character and then on a different character have different ranges. So I think having a common range here is actually a good quality of life improvement, regardless of whatever ability or perk that it's affecting. Rogue's ambush physical damage bonus changed from 30 to 50. Rogue's weak point attack armor rating reduction has been changed from 25 to 30, and the duration has been changed from 3 to 4 seconds. Okay, if you're making changes like this again, and you're bringing Rogue's damage back up, I guess it makes more sense as to why you'd only slightly increase dagger damage. If you're doing both at the same time, you want to be very careful with increasing the weapon damage, because when you add in percentages, that can change the damage very severely. So it makes sense why the dial only moves slightly for daggers. Jack-O-Lantern has returned. Regular merchants no longer sell epic items. Okay. I'm not sure how to feel about that. I think it will help the game slow down again as far as gear progression. And that's not a bad thing in my book, but it was sort of nice because you could just buy good gear if there was a good roll on your gear in your merchant's shop. I thought that was kind of an equalizer mechanic, so I guess as long as you can still buy rares like blues, it should still feel pretty good. The random modifier properties that appear on the colored rarity items have been reverted to give the much larger value range and larger variety, including the plus all attributes from before the previous patch. This means that checking the rules for your items means just as much or more than the color grade of the item. So Iron Mace had taken out some stats that could roll higher than 1, such as plus all attributes, or plus weapon damage, or plus true damage. And it sounds like they're gonna allow them to roll as high as 3 again. I don't know, a lot of people seem to like that it was capped at 1 in the previous patches here. So I don't know if this is going to be popular as far as changes go. Is it going to welcome back the whole W meta? And is it just going to incentivize people again to essentially delete their characters at level 15 and start over again from level 1 so they don't have to compete with plus 3 all attributes and plus 3 weapon damage, etc.? We'll find out. Sub-bosses and special chests such as the Lion's Head, Golden Chest, Marvelous, and Relic Coffins will always give colored grade loot now. Nice. It always felt bad to open a sweet looking chest and to not get any good loot from it. Always a disappointment. So this is gonna, I think, feel much better now. Soul Reaper, name change to Soul Scraper. What's missing from the patch number 1? The volume of footsteps that occur when walking crouched has been slightly reduced. I like that idea. It's nice to be quiet when you need it or when you want it. Barbarian's Iron Will now ignores knockback. Interesting. I didn't know there was enough knockback effects to kind of make that a useful perk or addition to that perk, or ability, sorry. Developer's notes. With the early access patch number 1, we wanted to have a clean baseline to start balancing the numerous weapon, armor, and classes. In order to do this, we needed to flatten and restrict the range of values of many of the parameters in the game. Our plan is to slowly build up from this baseline with what we've observed and learned during the EA to get to a sweet spot that players across a wide range of needs can enjoy. Now that we've had our run with the nerf hammer, we'll start to work the dials and start working on some buffs one by one. And it's important that they do it one by one. If they do too many at once, they won't know what went wrong if they don't like where the game has ended up. We also realized that although the changes to the merchants had the intended effect of reducing the stress of gearing up, we may have made it a little too easy, thus disincentivizing the value of loot more than we wanted. In order to put more value into the higher grades of loot, we have decided to revert to the more dynamic random modifiers from before EA patch number 1. We have also slightly tuned these modifiers so some of the more desirable stats are even better than before. We've also removed the epic items from the merchants so that the higher grade items are even more valuable. However, as an alternate means to still attain some of these high grade items outside the dungeons, we have reintroduced Jack-O-Lantern. So we get candy corn to buy items then. Finally, we want to motivate players to still obtain these loots from inside the dungeon, and I've made the sub-bosses and special chests as special points of interest that will always drop guaranteed higher quality loot. Thanks for your patience and understanding as we build this game together. I think Iron Mace always has the right spirit when they make these changes. They're thinking about the players, they're thinking about what's fun. People were having a lot of fun with the current changes, and I'm surprised that they've switched them or reverted some of them so quickly. It's only been a day or two, and there's literally people who haven't had a chance to play early access patch number 1 yet before they're actually reverting those changes. So they must have had some pretty sincere feedback from their internal tools and from the community that let them know it was okay to go back or that these changes were needed again. I'm a little surprised personally, but if they've come to that conclusion, I'm sure it was done with a good amount of evidence to support it. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to get back into the dungeon. I'm glad they did not revert some of the other changes they made, such as the changes to armor and them being available on the merchants. I think that was a very cool change and I've been loving it. So I'm still excited to be playing despite some of these changes being reversed. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for any comments, likes, and subscriptions. I appreciate your engagement with the channel. We'll see you in the dungeon.